Tomorrow on the show, we're going to spend some time talking about the overt Christian nationalist movement. And the Republican Party now is overtly Christian nationalist. They're straight up saying, we're sick of this separation of church and state stuff. We're sick of all of it. But I want to give you another data point in this today before we do our bigger story on it tomorrow. Marjorie Taylor Greene, among others, spoke at the Turning Point USA event over the weekend. We're going to look at more clips of this. We'll look at Trump's speech and Don Jr.'s speech and Lauren Boebert saying, I never was an escort. I never was a prostitute for Ted Cruz. Really weird event. But before we get into that in more detail, there was this one moment where Marjorie Taylor Greene said, Christian nationalism is great. That's what we need. Let's take a look at this video clip and then we'll discuss.
Perfect. It just means we're doing the right thing. And I think that's what the Republican Party needs to be about.
Huh.
I'm a Christian. How many Christians do we have here? So you see, I also call myself a Christian nationalist. And that's not a bad word. That's actually a good thing, right? And there's nothing wrong with leading with your faith, because we should lead with our faith. Because if we're doing that, then we're doing the right thing. It doesn't mean we're perfect. It just means we're doing the right thing.
So she says that that's what the Republican Party should be about. Now, Christian nationalism is not just we happen to be Christian and we like the United States or whatever. Christian nationalism means you believe United States as a nation is defined by Christianity. Government should be actively keeping the United States a Christian nation. The United States government should be imposing or prioritizing or giving preference to Christianity. Christianity should be the doctrine, a prescriptive doctrine for how the government runs, and you're sort of breaking down separation of church and state. This is not unique to Marjorie Taylor Greene, that the belief that Christianity should be privileged in the public square. Remember, we've looked at clips of Lauren Boebert. Lauren Boebert openly is calling for the same thing now.
And I believe that great patriots all throughout this nation and Christians will begin to position themselves in these days, in these times, that pastors would have a boldness to speak from the pulpit of their churches, to direct and inform the church on how to influence the direction of government.
So that's pretty full on. And if that's not direct enough for you, here she was saying she's tired of this separation of church and state stuff. We looked at this about a month ago when it took place.
The reason we had so many overreaching regulations in our nation is because the church complied. The church is supposed to direct the government. The government is not supposed to direct the church. That is not how our founding fathers intended it. And I'm tired of this separation of church and state junk that's not in the Constitution. It was in a stinking letter, and it means nothing like what they say it does.
Now, I've told you before that she's wrong. In fact, when they say it was in a stinking letter, what they're trying to do is minimize the idea, the desire for separation of church and state, to like an offhanded casual letter written by Thomas Jefferson. That's what Lauren Boebert wants you to believe. She wants you to believe it's all a big mistake. There was no actual desire for separation of church and state. Thomas Jefferson sort of mentioned it in one letter and that's it. But the reality is that were they deists or not, were they Christians or not, the founding fathers very clearly recognized, and it's established in the Constitution, that there should be no prioritization of one religion over another, nor of religion over non-religion in the United States. It's abundantly clear. The fact that we're going back to that, one of the things Republicans love to do is they don't just want to go back to the 1950s. They also want to go back to debates that have been long settled and that anybody who takes them seriously realizes there actually is no debate about. And this is extraordinarily dangerous. So we're going to talk tomorrow on the show about the decidedly Christian nationalist move of the Republican Party. Not everybody in the Republican Party agrees with it. I mean, someone like Adam Kinzinger, he doesn't agree with it. He's also retiring and is kind of increasingly irrelevant within the party. But even Trump now is regularly at his rallies, and we might look at the clip later, saying we kneel only before God, and all of these different sort of signals to the Christian nationalists. So this is a very dangerous movement in particular, because if they do well in November, and then they control the 2024 election. There are all sorts of ways in which they can impose this Christianity in the public square, completely antithetical. I mean, without a doubt, completely antithetical to what the framers wanted. So we will talk about it more. And in the meantime, you can send me your thoughts by finding me on Twitter @dpacman.